Hello and welcome to Mississippi Insight. I'm Byron Brown. Thank you for joining us. This week, Brandon Presley fields tough questions on his candidacy for governor.
And we're going to make the case to the voters of Mississippi why we've got to turn the page on Tate Reeves.
The Democrat from Nettleton discusses his push on ethics reform, health care concerns, needs in the Metro Jackson area, and how he thinks he can take down Mississippi's top elected official, Tate Reeves. It's part of a series of candidate interviews that you'll only find here on WJTV and Mississippi Insight. A fresh poll by MississippiToday.org and Siena College suggests a fair degree of voter uncertainty in the race for governor. The pollsters talked with 646 registered voters between June 4th and 7th. And of those voters likely to take part in the Republican primary, 21% said they would likely vote for Presley if the general election were held today. 70% would support Reeves. About 8% of those voters remain undecided. Reeves gets plenty of support in the Republican primary itself, but a defection of 1 in 5 Republican voters to Presley could make a difference in this bid for the governor's office. To be sure, Presley is fighting uphill in this election year. Reeves, the incumbent, has a massive war chest to spend on his campaign, and Mississippians have not elected a Democratic governor since 1999. Earlier this week, we spoke with Presley at length. It was a first opportunity for us to speak directly with the candidate about his campaign and his take on issues that resonate with Metro Jackson voters in particular. Here's Public Service Commissioner for the Northern District, Brandon Presley. Commissioner Brandon Presley, welcome to Mississippi Insight.
Hey, Byron, thank you for letting me come on.
Let's start with a broad question. You're running against a Republican incumbent who has never lost an election for a statewide political office. You're a Democrat in a state where Republicans hold the reins of government. What, in your mind, will it take to win a term of office over an incumbent governor?
Well, first, I've never lost an election either. And I've been in politics since I was 23 years old. Never lost an election because I get out and fight for every vote. There's no doubt voters in Mississippi and all 82 counties are ready to see a change in state government. They know that Tate Reeves has been a do-nothing governor. His accomplishments have been an F- when it comes to things such as health care or delivering for people in Mississippi on tax breaks, and really cleaning up the mess in state government that we've seen in the corruption scandal, whether it be Brett Favre getting $5 million for a volleyball court at the University of Mississippi or $1.3 million to the governor's personal trainer, the guy that teaches him to do jumping jacks. People in Mississippi know it's time to have a governor that understands we've got to clean the mess up first, and we've got to have some real actions on issues like health care and education. And I think that's why we're already seeing this race be extra competitive. Governor Reeves has not delivered, and our campaign is going out to places that have never seen a candidate for governor, either a Republican or a Democrat, because I believe in making sure that we make our case to the public and we show up in all 82 counties.
Governor has almost $10 million in the bank. How is that going to compare to what you have, and are you going to need a lot more funding to compete?
Well, first and foremost, I have no doubt we're going to be competitive when it comes to fundraising. We've already broken records in the state. We raised more money in the last quarter than any Democratic gubernatorial candidate in the history of Mississippi. We already raised in the last reporting period more than Attorney General Hood did, by almost double 4 years ago. We're going to have the resources to compete, but I think in the fact that the governor's got $10 million tells you a lot about him. He spent a lot of time the last 4 years and really his whole time in office raising money rather than tending to the problems of the state. And so we're going to compete financially. We're going to compete in every media market in the state and in every county, and we're going to make the case to the voters of Mississippi why we've got to turn the page on Tate Reeves.
Are you getting the support from the Democratic organization in the state as well as the national organization?
You know, what's been so great about this campaign, Byron, is that we're getting support all across the board, not only from Democrats, Republicans that are disgusted with this governor and know he's been a do-nothing governor, but also from fierce independents. You know, these are the folks that say, I vote for who I want to vote for in a campaign. I'm not going to be told who to vote for by a political party. So we're seeing great support across the board. And that's the kind of governor I want to be, not just a governor for one party, a governor for 82 counties and all the people in Mississippi, no matter who they voted for president. I want to be a governor that reaches out to them and fixes the problems in their community.
There's been a lot of talk about the ground game and the infrastructure for the Democratic Party. How do you overcome that?
Number one, work. I don't believe that you can just expect voters to show up, whether they're Democratic voters or other voters in the state. You've got to make the case to citizens as to why their vote counts, what you're going to do as governor, how you're going to accomplish things, and make sure they understand that this election's important. And so I think in many cases we've seen, you know, in not only in Mississippi but across the country, voter turnout being down because candidates don't go out and make the case. Look, I ain't got a problem with working. I believe in getting up and working as a candidate. I'll be a roll up your sleeves type of governor too, and that involves in this campaign going out and doing something that is kind of elementary, but it's kind of simple, asking people to vote for you.
How do you get Democratic voters to get off the couch and go to the polls and motivate them to vote this time?
I think Democratic voters are motivated. I think disgruntled Republicans are motivated. Fierce independents are motivated because as they see the record of this governor, they see that he's earned an F- in performance of his job. He has been lazy on issues. He's not been willing to take on fights. He's not been willing to clean up a system. And I think that these voters are going to be motivated to come out and vote. He's got a record that is going to, in and of itself, motivate people to come vote.
You've made ethics and anti-corruption efforts a central theme of your campaign. You've sought to implicate Governor Reeves on the TANF fraud scandals you talked about, although there's no sign of he's a target of the state or federal authorities. Why do you believe this push of ethics will resonate with voters? Well,
number one, Tate Reeves fired the prosecutor that was hired to investigate this case. That puts him in the epicenter of this corruption scandal. Why would you fire the guy that is looking in to clean the system up and to prosecute people who have done wrong? He fired him because he was getting too close to his Tate Reeves' own buddies, his campaign contributors, and he woke up one day and was fired. That puts the governor central into the middle of this corruption scandal, number one. Number two, I think ethics, a historic ethics reform package that we have laid out is what the average Mississippian understands. The people that I talk to, whether they're Republicans or Democrats or independents, they understand clearly in their gut that you shouldn't be able to raise campaign money while the legislature's in session. Look, if these legislators and the governor and others would get their mind on the people's business, rather than raising money and trying to get $9 million in the bank, we could get some things done in Mississippi. But they're more concerned about which lobbyist is going to carry them on a fishing trip, who's going to carry them playing golf, who's feeding them dinner at night, rather than the people's business. So our campaign is about cleaning this mess up. And so I think it's central to what we've got to do to turn state government back on the side of the people. People who are watching today that can't afford a $5,000 per plate campaign contribution to the governor, they can give you $5, but they can't give $5,000. You don't clean up the system and get it moving for the people without historic ethics reform.
We'll continue our interview with Commissioner Brandon Presley after the break. But first, we wanted to note that we have extended an invitation to Governor Tate Reeves for a similar interview opportunity. His staff is working on scheduling, and as soon as we lock down a day to talk, we'll bring that full interview with the governor right here on Mississippi Insight. We're back in a moment. Your campaign address in Jackson back in May was tightly focused on ethics reform, but a lot of voters here remain focused on local problems.
Sure.
Water infrastructure, crime prevention, crumbling roads and bridges. What differences would a Presley administration make in the terms of how the state supports local areas of concern?
Look, let me say this first and foremost. Local government's at my heart and soul. I was a small town mayor at my first political job when I was 23 years old, town of 1,906 people. I understand better than Tate Reeves could ever dream about what local government goes through, about what mayors and boards of aldermen and city councils have to balance. The difference in my administration and his would be, number one, to sit down and work out problems, to find a collaborative approach, to work with leaders, whether you agree with them, whether they're in the same party as you are. But the fact of the matter is, whether it's Jackson or whether it's Nettleton or whether it's Waveland, communities in Mississippi are what make our state up. And we should not feel as if state government is turned against our own very people. So I think so much in this race is about leadership, tone, and tenor, about who you are as a governor, and that you're willing to reach across the aisle, in this case, reach out to folks within your own party, to work on problems that are central to the future of Jackson or the future of any city.
How, as governor, would you heal the relationship between the city of Jackson and the state?
First of all, I'd make an effort to do it. Secondly is I would have a tone and a tenor that says, look, I may be from Nettleton, or someone in state government may be from Iuka or from Waveland, but Jackson is our capital city. At the end of the day, it's our capital city. And we have to be concerned about the economic success of the city of Jackson and all cities in Mississippi. And you can't do that looking for ways in which to pick fights. You've got to look for ways in which to bring people together. Some of that is purely relationships. Some of it is sitting down, being willing, unlike this governor, but being willing to put your ego aside, let it go out the window, and say we've got issues we need to solve. How can we best solve them? Rather than trying to take cheap political shots at cities and counties and localities, not just Jackson, around the state, that need state government on their side, working together.
There's a lot of issues about fighting crime, and 1020 is at the center of this. What's your
Right.
position on 1020? Where do you stand on that issue?
Well, let me tell you, I think, number one, I was a small town mayor. I wouldn't want the state of Mississippi coming telling me how to run the Nettleton Police Department. That's first and foremost. Secondly is, I think there are more collaborative ways to sit down and look at a strategic way to help with issues of crime and public safety in Jackson and in all of our communities. What I would not do is engage in a process that's going to be tied up in courts, and any effectiveness that has been touted is going to be so delayed because this is an intentional court battle that they have picked, Governor Reeves and others have picked, that is going to delay much of the good that could come from having a collaborative approach to sit down with the city and to try to find ways to supplement, to help increase funding for the Jackson Police Department, Hinds County Sheriff's Department, and others. But that is all now been really muddied up because we're into a court battle right now. If you want to work with people, I found this on the local level and in state office, if you truly want to work for people, 99% of the time you can. If you want to make it a political football, then, and that's exactly what's been done here, then that's exactly what you're going to get. And you're going to delay any collaborative approach and any real results for the folks that you say you want to help.
Do you believe there should have been an expansion of the Capitol Police presence?
Well, I think that there should be an approach that is comprehensive with the city of Jackson. That means sitting down to look at what the best approaches are, not just with the city, but with the Sheriff's Department and others. We all have a vested interest in that, but that process never, from my understanding, got started. So you can't get to what would be the best approach if you don't invite local leaders to sit down and talk about it. You know, we wouldn't operate our families this way. You would sit down and say, we got an issue. How do we work through it? That's the type of approach I would take as governor.
And how critical is the issue with dealing with the judges, whether you appoint judges or elected judges?
Well, I'll say this. We elect justice court judges in Mississippi that handle traffic tickets. I believe you should elect, if you're going to elect justice court judges that handle traffic tickets and you're going to elect Supreme Court justices, then the other justices should be elected too. And I think it's an insult to voters to say that voters cannot make a decision on their own who the best candidate is.
And on the water crisis, how much of a relationship should the state have with the city with dealing with the water crisis once the federal government gets out of the way?
Yeah, I think that there has to be, again, so much of this comes down to what's your approach? How do you want to solve the problem? Do you want to further make it political, or do you want to make it results-oriented? And I am a results-oriented type of candidate, and that's the kind of administration that I would have. On the water issue, I think there are ways in which the state can work together, planning with the city of Jackson. I would love for the folks in Jackson to hear generators running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, until every water line and problem with this water system is fixed, so that we could say to the country, here is a major public works project. We know you read the headlines about us being out of water. Let us tell you the next story. And the next story is we've gone to neighborhoods and we have taken a public works project and this problem is solved. You can do that. And unlike Tate Reeves, I'd have been walking in those neighborhoods of people that lost water.
Let's talk about the state economy. Governor Reeves says it's stronger than ever before. Personal income per capita is up. Our jobless rate is low. Our state lawmakers had a $4 billion surplus to work with last session. Why should voters believe that you're better at managing the economy than the incumbent? Well,
number one, I think folks listening today, if they look at their local economy, they know that the governor can pick some statistics that make him look good. But when you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, manufacturing participation in Mississippi is down. We are a state that's losing population, one of 3 only in this country that's losing population. And so he can paint a rosy picture in an election year. But the truth is, as I go around communities in Mississippi, they see Main Street businesses shut down. They know that St. Dominic Hospital just laid off 150 healthcare workers. They understand that because this governor plays petty, cheap, childish politics, by not expanding Medicaid, we're holding back 16,000 healthcare jobs. So he can try to pick and choose slips and slivers of statistics and roll them out in a campaign year. We're going to focus on Main Street. We know that over 99% of all businesses in Mississippi are small businesses. Byron, these are the folks that don't pack up and go to China and Mexico. When sorry trade agreements like NAFTA come in, these are businesses that stay in our hometowns. But yet, state government's position on economic development today is, once you open your doors, see you later. We need to be there trying to help small businesses, keep their doors open, make sure that we are rolling out programs that help the businesses that are a backbone of our economy. Yes, we want to attract manufacturing. Yes, companies coming here that are bringing thousands of jobs is good, and that's the type of governor I would be. You want to recruit those. But we also need to find ways to work with existing businesses, because we see as new job creation in Mississippi comes about, it comes about through existing businesses by a vast majority. These are the folks, as I talk to them, that feel left out because once they open their doors, state government just says, well, best of luck.
You've been all unapologetic about health care when it comes to expanding the Medicaid. Right. How do you think you'd be able to expand Medicaid if you're governor with a Republican legislature?
Well, number one, the governor has some statutory authority related to that by the way that the program is set up. So we would take action within the power of the governor's office to do that. Secondly is, I believe this, if you didn't have Tate Reeves standing up on TV and talking all the time about if you expand Medicaid, somehow this is, some wild idea that is out there, and he's jabbing at Republicans who are common sense Republicans that want to see health care jobs saved. I think the governor in tone and tenor can help bring along some votes. But if you could have a secret vote in the House of Representatives and the Senate where nobody's name got mentioned, it would pass overwhelmingly today. It would pass overwhelmingly today. We're not expanding Medicaid, not because it's not the right thing to do. Chancellor Jones at Ole Miss said that Governor Reeves himself told him he knew it was what needed to be done, but it would hurt him politically. And so therefore we're not doing it. I refer to him sometimes as His Majesty, because it seems whatever he thinks is what it should be. And so in my opinion, we should expand Medicaid. It makes economic sense. It makes sense as to who we are and our morality of rewarding people who are out there today. And Byron, these are folks that are wiping the table at Waffle House. They change our oil. They work at the dry cleaners. They're in a business in which they work every day, but they cannot get access to health care. That's not the business owner's fault. The business owner's trying to keep the doors open. The business owner's trying to make payroll. The employee's caught in the middle. State government can step up and do something about it, and we wouldn't be the first. 40 states in this country, including states like South Dakota, Oklahoma, bastions of Republican politics, have expanded Medicaid. Mike Pence himself, former vice president in Indiana, expanded Medicaid. This is not reinventing the wheel. This is doing what's right and putting away again the cheap, childish politics of Tate Reeves and getting centered to what is in the best interest of the people of Mississippi. And oh, by the way, we get to save 30+ hospitals in pursuit of that. And we also get to create 16,000 good health care jobs. This governor's just out of touch. He'd rather play politics than care about people.
We're close to the anniversary of the Dobbs versus Jackson women's health decision, tossing abortion rights back to the states. What is your stance on abortion access here in the state of Mississippi?
I support the law in Mississippi as it is, but I think being pro-life is not just about the abortion issue. I've been pro-life from the first time I ever ran a campaign for state office. I've been pro-life, but I think it is more about being pro-life is more than just the abortion issue. Look, I'm pro-hospital. I'm pro-doctor. I'm pro-ambulance. I'm pro-emergency room. This governor is anti every one of those things. So how can you call yourself pro-life if you're Tate Reeves if you don't have a problem with the labor and delivery unit of Singing River Hospital shutting down? How do you call yourself pro-life if you don't care about the Holly Springs Hospital stopping in-person care? So the issue of life and the right to life issue for me is more than just abortion. It is also about making sure that people have access to health care and access to an emergency room, access to a doctor. And so, that's where I stand on those issues, because I think it is more than just a one-sided issue.
Let's talk about education. The New York Times' Nicholas Kristof wrote a few weeks ago about Mississippi's education gains in recent years. He notes that we've raised our graduation rates from 75% in 2011 to 87% in 2020. Math and reading scores are up. Teacher pay is up as well. What would you do differently from Republican leadership when it comes to our education?
First thing I would do is not treat funding to public schools like a spigot where you turn it off and turn it on. We see education funding come full circle, sometimes with a little added come election year. When folks want to run around the state, stand up on the stump, go to fire departments and tell everybody how they're pro-education. The truth is, what are you doing the other 3 years of the session? So we can't treat public education funding like a spigot, cutting it off and cutting it on at the whim of our elected leaders. We owe it to our local school boards and our local schools to have a constant stream of funds that is predictable. We owe it to the taxpayers. I told you I was a small town mayor. When school districts have to continue to meet their operating budget, they have to raise taxes. They have to raise taxes on local people when the legislature and the governor do not do their job. Tate Reeves is all about a hide and seek tax increase. He hides from it and he seeks somebody else to take responsibility for it. I would be gutsy enough to say, here's what we need to do in Mississippi on education funding, how we need to take it on, and I would not pass the buck to local supervisors and local mayors.
We want to thank Democratic candidate for governor Brandon Presley for joining us this week. Again, we're working on scheduling a similar interview with Republican incumbent Tate Reeves, and we'll bring you more interviews with candidates for political office in our state as the campaign season unfolds. I'm Byron Brown from all of us here at 12 News. Make it a great weekend.